Chosen one, this message didn't find you by accident. God led you here for a divine reason. You've probably been sensing it deep within you, that unexplainable pull, that quiet knowing that something about you is different. You've tried to fit in, but it never worked. You've walked paths others fear to tread, faced storms most couldn't survive, and yet you're still standing. That's not coincidence. That's purpose. You hold spiritual keys that unlock gates not meant for everyone. These gates aren't made of metal or guarded by man. They're hidden in the unseen realm, reserved for those who've endured the refining fire and remained faithful. Let's break this down into 7 chapters for deeper understanding of the truth behind your divine access. Before we dive deep, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because this message isn't just content. It's a divine confirmation for the chosen ones. A heartfelt thank you to everyone who's been supporting through Super Thanks. God bless you richly. Your faith, your consistency, and your presence do not go unnoticed. To all of you who continually watch, listen, and align, know that you are part of a divine movement rising in this generation. If your spirit feels this frequency, type 77 in the comments right now. That number isn't random. It's a sacred signal to the Most High and the universe that you're ready to unlock what's been hidden, ready to walk through the gate that only few can enter. Not everyone will make it to the end of this message, only the truly chosen. Those who stay will gain deeper revelation, spiritual clarity, and divine understanding about the keys they carry and the power they possess. This isn't just another message. It's a spiritual activation, a living word, a blueprint that unfolds piece by piece each time your spirit revisits it. Watch it again whenever you're led, because every time you do, another layer of divine truth will unlock within you. Chosen one, this is your confirmation. You hold the keys to a gate only few can enter. Let's dive deeper. Chapter 1, the call that separated you, chosen. One, before you even knew your name, before you were aware of your purpose, heaven had already marked you. You were never meant to blend in, because you were chosen to break patterns and rewrite spiritual cycles that have lasted generations. That divine mark on your life was placed there long before birth. You didn't stumble into purpose. You were born with it embedded in your spirit. From childhood, you probably felt like you never truly fit in. You sensed things others didn't, noticed energies others ignored, and often carried emotions too heavy for your age. You wondered why people distanced themselves, why relationships felt temporary, or why you always stood on the outside looking in. But that separation wasn't punishment. It was positioning. God wasn't isolating you to hurt you. He was setting you apart to prepare you. The loneliness was your classroom, and silence was your teacher. While others were chasing attention, you were being drawn into alignment. God was stripping away distractions, friends, habits, and environments that couldn't hold your destiny. He needed your focus, your surrender, your obedience. That's why it seemed like you lost everything when you were just trying to do right. It wasn't loss, it was purification. Every removal was divine editing. Heaven was clearing space so revelation could flow freely through you. In your isolation, something sacred happened. Your spiritual senses began to awaken. You started to see through masks, discern hidden motives, and feel the atmosphere shift when something wasn't pure. People called it overthinking, but it was God sharpening your discernment. You were being taught to trust energy, not appearances, to sense truth in silence, to detect deception before it manifests. That inner knowing wasn't a coincidence, it was calibration. The quiet seasons birthed depth within you. You began to understand that solitude wasn't emptiness. It was sacred ground where heaven meets the human heart. Every tear you cried became a seed of wisdom. Every unanswered prayer became a doorway to revelation. You were being trained in ways the world couldn't understand, in faith, patience, and spiritual perception. Chosen one, what you thought was rejection was really redirection. You were being pulled out of the ordinary, so you could carry the extraordinary. You were being called out of the crowd so you could stand as a vessel of divine clarity. That separation wasn't random. It was the refining fire preparing you to carry spiritual keys, wisdom, vision, and revelation. And now you understand. You weren't just separated, you were summoned. The stillness you endured wasn't silence from God. It was strategy from heaven. He needed your ears tuned to his frequency, your heart emptied of distraction, and your spirit aligned with his timing. The first key you received was awareness, the ability to see what most people can't. Awareness of truth beyond illusion. Awareness of light hidden within darkness. Awareness of your divine assignment in a world asleep to its purpose. This awareness is your foundation. It's what sets you apart from the masses and connects you to divine intelligence. It's the evidence that your separation was sacred, because before God can send you, he must first separate you. Before he can reveal, he must first refine. Chapter 2. The battle for your mind, chosen one. Before you could hold the keys to divine gates, the enemy tried to convince you that you were unworthy of them. The war over your life wasn't about your body or possessions. It was about your mind, because whoever controls the mind controls the mission. The mind is the battlefield between divine truth and deception. That's why you've been under such intense mental warfare. The enemy knows if he can make you doubt who you are, he can delay what you were sent to do. From the moment you began to awaken, the pressure increased. Anxiety crept in. Doubt whispered. Fear tried to take root. The enemy didn't need to destroy you. He only needed to distract you. He planted lies like seeds, hoping they'd grow into beliefs that would block your purpose. Every "you're not enough," every "God doesn't hear you," was a calculated attempt to disconnect you from your divine identity. But what the enemy didn't realize is that you were being refined through the very storm meant to destroy you. Every sleepless night became training. Every silent prayer became power. You began to understand that your mind isn't your enemy. It's your tool. When you learned to command it through faith and discipline, you began to control your atmosphere. Your mind is sacred territory, the meeting point between heaven's downloads and earth's manifestation. That's why the enemy targeted it so violently. He knew that if he could fill your thoughts with confusion, he could block revelation, but your clarity dismantles his illusion. Your awareness threatens his influence. You've walked through invisible wars, smiling outwardly while fighting inwardly. Yet even in silence, God was near. His quietness was never absence, it was preparation. He was teaching you how to hold faith when your feelings failed. Every time you whispered, "God, I still trust you," even through tears, you were forging something sacred, the key of endurance. This key can only be formed in battle. Every moment you didn't quit became a spiritual credential. Every breakdown you overcame became a badge of strength in the spirit realm. You now understand that endurance isn't about surviving pain, it's alignment under pressure. The moment you learn to renew your mind daily with divine truth, the enemy lost his grip. You stopped reacting to chaos and began regulating it. Fear no longer controls your focus. Peace now guards your thoughts. This gate can only be opened by those who have mastered their mind. Your mindset determines your spiritual altitude. You cannot ascend with a mind anchored in fear or limitation. To rise, your thoughts must align with truth, and your emotions must submit to faith. Chosen one, the battle for your mind was never to destroy you. It was to prepare you. You had to conquer the inner storm before you could calm the outer one. Peace isn't the absence of battle. It's mastery within it. You didn't just survive the battle for your mind, you won it. And that victory has become the second key, endurance. The power to stand firm no matter what comes. Chapter 3. The Fire of Transformation, Chosen One. You didn't just go through pain, you went through purification. Every flame, every loss, every tear had purpose. The fire you faced wasn't designed to destroy you. It was sent to burn away everything that couldn't carry your next level. God allowed you to walk through heat so that what was fake, fragile, or fear-based would melt away. You were never being punished. You were being purified. There were seasons when you felt like everything was being stripped from you. Relationships dissolved. Friendships faded. Doors closed. Dreams you once cherished crumbled before your eyes. It wasn't rejection. It was refinement. The people who left couldn't walk where you were headed. The plans that failed couldn't align with what heaven was building in you. Every ending was secretly a new beginning, even if it came disguised as loss. Transformation is never gentle, it's fire. And fire doesn't ask permission to burn. It consumes anything that isn't authentic. That's why it hurts so deeply. The fire exposed your attachments, burned away your illusions, and forced you to confront the parts of yourself that were built on survival, not spirit. You had to face the truth of who you were so you could evolve into who you were meant to be. Through that fire, your heart was softened and your vision sharpened. You began to see the difference between what's good and what's divine, between what looks right and what's truly aligned. The very pain that tried to destroy you actually activated your discernment. You learned to pause before reacting, to listen before speaking, and to trust God's plan even when it made no sense. That inner stillness, that peace in the middle of the flames, became your new power. Chosen one, the process hurt because it was holy. Fire doesn't just cleanse, it transforms. It breaks you open to reveal the purity within. Every time you thought you were breaking down, you were actually breaking free. Free from old versions of yourself, free from people who couldn't see your worth, free from habits that dulled your spirit. You became more compassionate because you understood pain on a personal level. You became more humble because you saw how fragile human strength is without divine guidance. You became more disciplined because you learned that emotional reactions can destroy spiritual progress. The fire didn't just refine your character, it forged your spiritual authority. Now you carry a frequency that cannot be faked. When you walk into a room, your energy speaks before you do. People may not understand it, but they feel it. The purity, the peace, the quiet power. That's the energy of someone who's been through fire and didn't lose their light. You no longer chase validation because the fire taught you who you are. You no longer fear loss because you've already survived it. This was the third key, purification. Without it, power corrupts. Without refinement, revelation becomes pride. The fire taught you how to carry power with humility and wisdom. It stripped you of ego so you could serve from truth. And because you allowed the refining, heaven can now trust you with revelations that others can't handle. You didn't just survive the fire, you were reborn in it. The ashes didn't mark your ending. They marked your transformation. Chapter 4. The Gate of Revelation. Chosen one. When you reach this stage, the atmosphere around your life begins to change. The noise of the world fades, and the voice of heaven grows clearer. Revelation is not just information, it's transformation. It's divine understanding that comes through experience, obedience, and maturity. At this level, God reveals mysteries that can't be found in books, they come through encounter. You've battled through darkness and fire, and now your spirit is tuned to hear what few can. Everything begins to make sense. You see divine fingerprints on your past. Every delay, heartbreak, and closed door was direction in disguise. Those who left you created space for new alignment. You finally understand that nothing was wasted. It was all training for revelation. At this gate, you move differently. You sense divine instruction, when to move, when to wait, when to speak, and when to stay silent. You no longer chase answers outside yourself because you've learned to listen within. The same voice that guided prophets now whispers in your spirit. Your spiritual sensitivity heightens. You can feel when something is off, even if it looks right. Not every opportunity is divine, and not every connection is sacred. Some doors are distractions dressed as blessings. That's why discernment becomes your shield. The gate of revelation is not for the curious, but for the consecrated. It's opened through stillness, surrender, and trust. God shows you things hidden from the natural eye, motives, patterns, and spiritual truths. He reveals not for pride, but for purpose. This is the fourth key: discernment, the ability to perceive truth beyond appearance. Many can quote God's word, but few can interpret his whispers. You've entered a realm where heaven speaks in dreams, numbers, and impressions, and you understand them because your frequency matches his. At this stage, revelation becomes your daily bread. You see purpose in pain, meaning in mistakes, and destiny in delays. The fog clears, and every season begins to speak to you. God now trusts you with secrets, not because you're perfect, but because you're faithful. You realize revelation is a responsibility. The more you see, the more accountable you become. That's why God doesn't give revelation to everyone. Not everyone can carry it with humility. But you, chosen one, were refined for this. You use revelation to awaken, not to boast. Now your walk with God becomes deeply personal. You move with prophetic accuracy, and your presence itself becomes revelation. Heaven no longer speaks to you. It speaks through you. Guard this key carefully. Protect your discernment. Honor your intuition, and move in silence when heaven instructs you. You've entered the gate of revelation, a realm where wisdom replaces worry and divine sight replaces confusion. This is where you finally see who you've always been. Chapter 5. The responsibility of access. Chosen one, with every divine key comes sacred responsibility. Spiritual access is not a trophy, it's a trust. God doesn't give revelation to impress you. He gives it to test your stewardship. The more you're allowed to see, the more you're accountable for. That's why he took you through seasons of silence, rejection, and waiting, to teach you what to say, what to hold, and what to guard. When heaven entrusts you with access, you must learn to move with precision. You can't speak freely about everything God shows you. Some visions are for instruction, not conversation. Some revelations are meant to be sealed in prayer until an appointed time. The moment you reveal divine secrets too soon, the enemy uses that information as a weapon. Not everyone around you has pure intentions. Some will smile at your light but secretly hope to dim it. Others will misunderstand your depth because they were never meant to walk on your frequency. You've probably already learned that discernment is protection. There were times you shared too much and it backfired. Times you thought someone was ready for your truth, but they couldn't comprehend it. That pain taught you wisdom. It wasn't betrayal. It was training. Heaven was teaching you the discipline of silence, because not every truth belongs in open conversation. Some truths are seeds that need to stay buried until they bloom. Being a chosen one means you are a gatekeeper. You stand at the intersection of realms, between spirit and matter, heaven and earth. What you allow into your mind and spirit affects what flows out of your life. Your energy is sacred currency. Every thought, word, and connection either strengthens or weakens your spiritual authority. That's why God isolates you at times, not to punish you, but to purify your gates. The fifth key you've been given is wisdom. Wisdom is not just knowledge. It's timing. It's knowing when to speak, when to move, when to wait, and when to stay silent. Wisdom is what keeps your access from being corrupted. It teaches you how to navigate power without pride and revelation, without arrogance. Many receive insight but lose it because they mishandle it. Few are disciplined enough to protect what they've been entrusted with. Understand this. Access without maturity becomes destruction. The moment pride enters, the gate begins to close. God promotes the humble because they understand that power without character is dangerous. Every gate you've unlocked so far has required humility, not ambition. You cannot carry divine keys with human ego. You are not called to impress the world with your insight. You are called to preserve heaven's integrity on earth. The knowledge you hold can shift destinies, heal minds, and awaken souls. But it must be carried with reverence. Handle it carelessly, and you lose its frequency. Handle it wisely, and you multiply its reach. That's why the higher you rise, the quieter you must become. True power doesn't announce itself, it radiates. The ones who carry real authority move in stillness because they no longer need validation. You've entered that level now, chosen one. God is trusting you not just with revelation, but with responsibility. So guard your access, protect your gates, move with wisdom, humility, and precision. Remember, many are called, but few are trusted with divine access. Chapter 6. The Hidden Gate of Power, Chosen One. This gate cannot be opened by effort or intellect, only by alignment. The hidden gate of power is unseen by the natural eye and inaccessible to the unprepared heart. It's revealed only to those who've remained faithful through silence, obedience, and surrender. This realm is not for those chasing validation or fame. It's for those who've proven trustworthy in private when no one was watching. Heaven doesn't grant power to the loud. It grants it to the loyal. You've endured seasons where heaven felt silent, yet you stayed obedient. You followed divine instructions that made no sense to your mind, but perfect sense to your spirit. You forgave when it hurt, served when you were tired, and kept believing when everything in your life said quit. Every act of obedience was a quiet key turning in the lock. Without realizing it, the gate has now opened and heaven has recognized your name. This is divine authority, not ordinary power. You no longer need to shout to be heard. Your presence alone carries weight. Chapter 7. Walking through the gate. Chosen one. Now that you hold the keys, the final step before you is courage. The gate you stand before is sacred and narrow. It recognizes vibration, not appearance. Many will arrive here, but few will enter, because stepping through requires absolute faith, total surrender, and fearless obedience. This is the threshold between the old you and the divine version you were destined to become. Everything you've endured, heartbreaks, delays, and betrayals, wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Heaven was fortifying your spirit for this moment. The silence sharpened your sensitivity, and the isolation deepened your connection. Every storm that tried to break you was pushing you closer to divine alignment. Now as you stand before the gate, all creation waits for your yes. The gate before you doesn't open through force but through surrender. You cannot carry fear or old attachments through it. Those must be left behind. It only opens to authenticity, to the soul stripped of ego and strengthened by faith. God wasn't withholding. He was refining you to handle the weight of divine access. Once you step through, everything changes. You shift from survival to purpose, from searching to leading, from learning to activating. You become a vessel of divine authority, a bridge between realms. Your presence becomes healing to others, and your words begin to manifest faster. You no longer live by chance, but by divine instruction. The seventh key is faith. It's the bridge between the unseen and the manifested, the force that moves you beyond logic and fear into destiny. Faith isn't the absence of doubt, it's movement despite it. You've become the evidence of things unseen, a living embodiment of trust. As you walk through this sacred gate, know that heaven celebrates every step. You are not walking alone. Angels surround you and divine favor covers you. Every step sends ripples through the spirit realm, opening paths for those who come after you. You're not just walking for yourself, you're walking for generations. Protect the keys you've been given. Guard them with humility and obedience. They were earned through endurance and faith. The world may never understand your journey, but heaven honors it. Chosen one, you were sent to unlock what others only dream of. The gate has recognized your frequency, and heaven has called your name. Step forward. Don't look back.